how Vietnamese tunnels outsmarted the US military. A lot of people linked this over and said, hey, they might have not taught you every single detail in school. And school hasn't, right? The US school system is a completely different world, and they don't be teaching a lot of the details. They kind of just skim over it. A lot of the times, kids don't pay attention. It is what it is. But the reality is this. There are videos and there are essays online that will explain to you these things in a beautiful fashion where you can learn a lot. And I am excited to learn about how the Vietnamese tunnels outsmarted the US military. I know that the Vietnamese did guerrilla warfare similar to Filipinos, but I'm excited for this. Come join me. Let's go.
In 1966, the U.S. Army built one of its largest bases in Vietnam directly on top of 250 kilometers of enemy tunnels. They had no idea. Cu Chi Base Camp, 30 kilometers northwest of Saigon. Thousands of American soldiers, helicopters, artillery, tanks, fortified perimeter, watchtowers, floodlights. By every measure, impenetrable. And every single night, soldiers inside it are dying. Same pattern every time. Darkness falls. Somewhere inside the perimeter, an explosion. Gunfire. Chaos. By the time soldiers respond, it's over. No retreating figures, no trails, no bodies. Just dead Americans and silence.
So how did they go about that? Because if they made these tunnels and these happened every single night and they just couldn't figure out why, were they coming out of a tunnel, maybe like a specific thing, and then covering it up maybe with like a giant like tarp? And then made it seem like it was like part of the U.S. military base? Or did they hide it maybe like under... No, there wasn't no sewage canal or anything like that, obviously. There was obviously like just dirt everywhere. So they had to have covered it up. Like grass or like trees.
Every morning, the same report on the commander's desk. Attacked last night. Enemy disappeared. No contact established for months. The commanders sweep the jungle daily. Find nothing. No camps, no supply lines, nothing. It's like fighting ghosts. Then one patrol finds a hole, small, hidden under leaves just outside the perimeter wire.
There you go.
An engineer gets on his hands and knees.
So it was hidden under leaves. So this is how they hide the holes, sure, but how do they bomb? Oh, I see. So it didn't happen through the base. You see, it happened where they would get out of these holes, hide away, bomb, shoot, all these things, run away back to the hole, cover it up, and they're gone. Like they disappeared.
Hidden under leaves just outside the perimeter wire. An engineer gets on his hands and knees, shines a light inside. The tunnel goes down, turns, disappears into darkness. He stands up.
Sir, I think we found the problem.
What nobody knows yet is that beneath this base, beneath the barracks, beneath the mess hall, there are 250 kilometers of tunnel.
Do not tell me this is actually how it was, though. Was it? No way, bro. Was this genuinely how they had it? Like you just had these beds and rooms, these chill rooms, couches. Unbelievable.
This base, beneath the barracks, beneath the mess hall, there are 250 kilometers of tunnels. And over the next 9 years, those tunnels will kill more Americans than any single battle in Vietnam. So how does an army with no heavy equipment, no machinery, no resources build an underground city directly under the most powerful military force on Earth without anyone noticing? That's exactly what we're going to find out.
That's insanity.
The Cu Chi tunnels didn't start as a military operation.
The what tunnels?
They started as a way to survive French bombs in the 1940s.
Oh, okay.
And by the time the Americans arrived, they had been growing for 20 years. The soil under Cu Chi made it possible. Red laterite clay, hard as concrete when dry, doesn't collapse under pressure, doesn't flood easily, doesn't crumble when bombs hit nearby. The Vietnamese didn't choose this location by accident. They chose it because the ground itself was a building material. The tools were simple: short-handled hoes, wicker baskets, human hands, nothing else. Workers dug at night to avoid French patrols, carried the excavated soil away in baskets and scattered it across fields so aerial reconnaissance wouldn't spot fresh dirt piles.
Wow.
Every entrance was camouflaged, hidden under trapdoors covered with leaves, grass, termite mounds. Some entrances were submerged in ponds. You had to dive underwater to find them.
Whoa, that's so cool, bro. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. That's actually so smart. The water one is awesome. And by the way, that is another thing. I was like, where does the dirt go if they're just doing all of this and making entire cities underground? But they would bucket it out, put it maybe in areas where you wouldn't see, obviously, fresh pile, whether it be with mud or mixing it in. That's actually so smart. And they already started pre-learning this long ago when the French bombed, like he mentioned. And the cool thing about that is that it ended up working out for them in the sense that they had these pre-built just because of that. That's crazy. And the U.S. didn't know a thing about it. Not even one thing.
Termite mounds. Some entrances were submerged in ponds. You had to
cool.
dive underwater to find them. The openings were deliberately tiny, 60 centimeters wide, just large enough for a small Vietnamese person to squeeze through, large enough to guarantee that no American soldier could follow easily.
Yeah, they knew the U.S. soldiers were taller. You ain't getting in here, bro, unless you're 4'11".
By the time the Americans arrived in the early 1960s, the basic network already existed. But the Viet Cong understood immediately what they were dealing with. The most powerful military in history. Overwhelming firepower, complete air superiority. Fighting them above ground was suicide, so they went below it. They expanded the tunnels aggressively, dug deeper, added new sections, connected villages, connected supply routes, connected everything. They built 3 levels. The first level, 3 meters down, shallow enough for quick access but deep enough to survive standard artillery. The second level, 6 meters down, safer during heavier bombardment. The third level, 9 meters down, designed to survive direct hits from the largest conventional bombs in the American arsenal. Each level connected by vertical shafts with trapdoors between them. If Americans flooded the top level, the Viet Cong dropped to the second. If they gassed the second, they dropped to the third. The system had an answer for everything, but the tunnels weren't just escape routes. They were a city, a fully functioning underground city. Hospitals with operating tables where surgeons worked by candlelight performing procedures on wounded soldiers. Kitchens with ventilation systems so cleverly designed that smoke was channeled horizontally through hundreds of meters of tunnel before emerging from the ground far.
Oh my gosh, bro. Yo, genius. Actually genius. The Vietnamese, man, they gotta win like a medal for this. This is crazy work. So the steam would leave far away and just kind of be like a little quick gas where you would not notice it, right? It isn't just constant to the point where, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
From any entrance, making it impossible to locate from above. Weapons factories where captured American ammunition was recycled into new weapons.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Printing presses producing propaganda. Wells providing fresh water. Sleeping quarters where thousands of people lived for months at a time without seeing daylight. At its peak, up to 10,000 people lived underground at Cu Chi simultaneously. They were born there, married there, died there, an entire society operating 9 meters below the boots of the American soldiers walking above them.
That's insane.
And those American soldiers had absolutely no idea.
That's insane.
The U.S. Army tried everything to destroy the Cu Chi tunnels. Bombs, gas, fire, water, dogs. Nothing worked. And every failed attempt taught the Viet Cong exactly how to survive the next one. The first attempt was the most obvious. Bombing. If the tunnels are underground, hit them from above hard enough and they collapse. In 1965, Operation Rolling Thunder began. B-52 bombers dropping thousands of tons of explosives across Cu Chi District. The surface of the earth was unrecognizable after. Trees gone, craters everywhere, jungle reduced to ash. The Americans looked at the aerial photos and saw total destruction. What they couldn't see was 9 meters below. The bottom level of the tunnel system was untouched. The Viet Cong had simply moved deeper during the raids, waited for the bombing to stop, then came back up. The craters left by the bombs became useful. They collected rainwater, provided cover.
So it just ended up helping them. You bombed it, they're like, all right, that'll teach them. There's like levels to it, and then they just come up and be like, I guess we use this as a pond to collect rainwater. Thank you. Crazy.
That was supposed to destroy the tunnels accidentally improved the landscape around them.
Yeah.
Second attempt, Agent Orange, a chemical defoliant sprayed from aircraft across entire regions. It strips every leaf from every tree, destroys crops, eliminates jungle cover. Without vegetation, the Viet Cong have nowhere to hide above ground. Entire forests died within days of exposure. The landscape turned brown and lifeless. And the tunnels underneath, completely unaffected. You can kill every tree above a tunnel. The tunnel doesn't care. The Viet Cong stayed underground during spraying operations and emerged into a dead landscape that was now even easier to move through at night because there was no undergrowth to slow them down. Third attempt, flooding. Engineers pump water directly into tunnel entrances. Water fills the tunnels, forces everyone out or drowns them. Simple, effective. Except the Viet Cong had anticipated this. Between every major section of tunnel, they installed watertight trapdoors. When water entered one section, they sealed it off. The flooded section was sacrificed. The rest of the network stayed dry. American engineers pumped thousands of gallons of water into Cu Chi. They flooded maybe 2% of the total network. The other 98% continued operating normally.
Only 2%?
Fourth attempt, gas. Pump poison gas into the tunnels. It spreads through the entire network. Nobody survives. Except the tunnels were too long and too complex for gas to travel effectively. It dispersed, weakened. By the time it reached the deeper sections, it was barely concentrated enough to cause irritation. The Viet Cong also installed ventilation baffles throughout the system. Simple wooden panels that could be closed to block airflow between sections. Gas entered one area, got sealed off, dissipated. The engineers pumping it in had no way of knowing if it was working because nothing came out the other end. Fifth attempt, dogs. Specially trained German shepherds with handlers. The dogs find tunnel entrances by scent, mark them for destruction. Except the Viet Cong learned about the dogs quickly. They began rubbing American soap and pepper around tunnel entrances. The soap masked the human scent with a smell the dogs associated with friendly forces. The pepper destroyed their ability to track anything for hours. Handlers watched their dogs walk directly over hidden entrances without reacting. The dog program was quietly abandoned. Every single method the most powerful military in the world could devise had been defeated by people with shovels, wooden panels, and pepper. So the American—
Well, yeah, in this sense, like even with the most equipment, if you are already dealt a card where you don't have that equipment, you are forced to innovate. You are forced to try something different. This is literally how humans like evolved too. Like you were getting kicked out of the jungle. We were forced to evolve, have fire or whatever, and then boom, 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 here we go. Now you have tools, so on and so forth, right? In this concept, it's the same thing. Like, you know you are the weakest, so you have to innovate. You are forced to make something that they can't even fathom. Levels upon levels and answers to everything. You have to be innovative in this sense. And what's crazy too is intelligence, right? And I'm not saying that the U.S. soldiers were dumb, but they were so unpredictable, the Vietnamese, that the U.S. soldiers, no matter what kind of gear you had, you can't understand what is happening quick enough, especially when they're constantly changing positions, constantly being over here, some being in the trees, like where you look, up and below.
Americans made a decision that nobody who made it would ever forget. If technology can't solve this problem, send in a human, someone small enough to fit through a 60-centimeter hole, armed with nothing but a pistol and a flashlight, and hope they come back out.
They didn't come back out. Say it.
There was no training manual for what came next, no protocol, no precedent, just a hole in the ground and a soldier small enough to fit through it. The U.S. Army needed men with specific physical characteristics: small, lean, narrow shoulders. The tunnels were 60 to 80 centimeters wide. A standard American soldier in full combat gear couldn't fit, so they looked for the smallest men in the division: Australians, Puerto Ricans, small-framed Americans, men who under any other circumstances would have been considered too small for combat.
So they just like, yo, let's get me some Puerto Ricans and Australians.
Down here, their size was the only qualification that mattered. They called themselves tunnel rats. Nobody assigned them that name. It just fit. They stripped down before entering. No helmet, no body armor, no rifle. A rifle couldn't be aimed in a tunnel that narrow, couldn't be turned around if something came from behind. So they left everything above ground. What they took in was a Colt 1911 pistol with one spare magazine, a flashlight, sometimes a knife. That was it. The entire might of the United States military reduced to one handgun and a battery-powered light.
Nah.
They developed their own rules because nobody above them had any—
Yo, that's a horror game, bro. What? You imagine you just see a 4'11" Vietnamese run at you. What are you doing? Sure, you can shoot, but imagine 3 of them. All right, bro.
Because nobody above them had any idea what they were facing. Rule 1. Move slowly. Every centimeter of tunnel floor could be a pressure plate. Every wall could have a wire stretched across it at throat height in the dark. Rule 2. Use the flashlight as little as possible.
So they set traps?
Light travels far in a tunnel. If you can see, you can be seen. Learn to move in complete darkness. Learn to feel the walls. Learn to hear breathing that isn't yours. Rule 3. If you hear movement ahead, stop. Wait. Let your eyes adjust to whatever faint light exists. Let your ears tell you how far away it is. How many? Which direction? Then decide. What they found inside was beyond anything they had been briefed on.
Oh my gosh.
The Viet Cong had spent 20 years preparing these tunnels for exactly this situation. The first thing most tunnel rats encountered wasn't an enemy soldier. It was a trap. Punji sticks, sharpened bamboo stakes coated in poison, or feces buried in shallow pits covered with thin layers of dirt.
Covered in poop? So they put traps covered in poop so you get E. coli. Oh my gosh, bro. Just poison me, bro. Don't put poop on a stick. So when I get stabbed, why is that worse? I know somebody in the comments is going to tell me scientifically it's not worse. Scientifically, the poison will kill you. But like, let's stop for 5 seconds. Let's take off our glasses. Poop is on the spikes. Which one would you rather step on, right? You had to step on one. Poison or poop? Just kill me with the poison, bro. I'm not. Poop on a stick and you fall on it. No, covered in feces. Absolutely not.
You put your hand down to crawl forward, and it went through the covering into the pit. The stakes went through your palm. The infection that followed was often worse than the wound itself.
Oh, yeah.
Some pits were angled so the stakes went in easily but couldn't be pulled out without tearing flesh. Others had stakes pointing upward from the floor and downward from a false ceiling. You crawled into the space between them without realizing until you tried to move forward or back. Then there were the animals. The Viet Cong placed bamboo vipers in clay pots sealed with paper and rigged to door frames. Open the door and the pot falls. The paper tears. The snake lands on you in complete darkness. Soldiers learn to open every door from the side with their knife extended first. Feel for wires. Feel for pots. Feel for anything that shouldn't be there. Scorpion boxes hung from ceilings on threads too thin to see without light. Walk through the thread and the box falls open above your head. Some tunnels had fire ants released throughout entire sections.
Yo, the Vietnamese created saw in real life. They made saw traps. Why, bro? Not why do they do it, but like, why even go in there? I will yo, these soldiers, yo, go ahead. Go ahead. Obviously, they didn't know, because I know this is a key point that people are going to emphasize to me, but like, I know they didn't know, but like, it's just insane. You know what I mean? Like, seeing this hindsight, it's like insane. You had no idea what you're like getting yourself into, but you also could not have predicted that. an entire world under there, in a world full of traps.
Deadly, but impossible to move through quietly when thousands of ants are biting every exposed piece of skin simultaneously. And beyond the traps, there were people. Viet Cong soldiers who knew these tunnels better than they knew their own villages, who had lived in them for years, who could navigate them in complete darkness at a speed that seemed impossible. Tunnel rats reported hearing movement ahead, stopping, waiting in silence for minutes, then feeling displaced air as someone passed within arm's reach in the dark without making a sound. Firefights in the tunnels happened at distances of 2 to 3 meters, sometimes less, in complete or near complete darkness. The psychological toll was unlike anything else in the Vietnam War. Above ground, soldiers dealt with fear, exhaustion, loss. Below ground, they dealt with something older and more fundamental. The fear of enclosed spaces, the fear of darkness, the fear of not knowing what was 6 inches in front of your face. Most tunnel rats served multiple tours underground. Most came back changed in ways they couldn't explain to people who hadn't been down there.
Yeah, you would never be able to even get under a blanket ever again, because it's going to feel like a trap or something. Imagine. That actually is probably a thing that would happen, right? Where psychologically, the torment on your mind of every corner and every crevice could potentially be the end of your life or something that feels like torture. And now every time you close your eyes to go to bed, you see this darkness that reminds you of that tunnel, or you feel a blanket over you and it feels like something is suffocating you, trapping you, right? Similar to that. Like, I can't even fathom what they probably dealt with, because even psychologically, your mind can do that. Like the blanket example I gave you, like you can't even sleep with a blanket most likely now, because it feels like one of the traps that was probably in there. It feels like you're underground again. Like, I can't fathom, bro.
The nightmares weren't about the firefights. They were about the silence, the darkness, the feeling of the walls closing in, and the sound of breathing that wasn't theirs.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the final score.
Oh my gosh.
9 years, billions of
dollars. Yo, imagine that. You're in the dark. You're in there in the tunnel, crawling. You're getting bit. All you hear is you. Then you stop. You're like, what was that? Dead silence. What do you do? What do you do? Oh my gosh. Bro, first, like, yo, oh, like, and you can't even really move. Like, the walls are like that. Oh, hell.
Final score, 9 years, billions of dollars, the most advanced military technology ever assembled. Against peasants with shovels and short-handled hoes, the peasants won. By 1975, when the last American forces left Vietnam, the Cu Chi tunnel system was still operational, still intact, still functioning exactly as it was designed to function. The bombs hadn't destroyed it, the gas hadn't cleared it, the water hadn't flooded it, the dogs hadn't found it, the tunnel rats hadn't broken it.
Nope.
250 kilometers of hand-dug tunnels had outlasted the full military and technological might of the United States of America. The human cost was staggering on both sides. The 25th Infantry Division, stationed at Cu Chi Base Camp, suffered some of the highest casualty rates of any American unit in Vietnam. Thousands of soldiers killed or wounded, many of them by an enemy they never saw, coming from a direction they never expected, disappearing back into the ground before anyone could respond. The Viet Cong losses in the tunnels were catastrophic too. Tens of thousands of people who lived and fought in the Cu Chi system died there, from bombs that penetrated deep enough, from gas that worked well enough, from tunnel rats who found them in the dark. But here's what the Cu Chi tunnels actually proved. The United States had every technological advantage imaginable. Air power, firepower, equipment, resources. The Viet Cong had dirt, shovels, and nowhere else to go. And when you have nowhere else to go, you go underground. You dig, you survive, you wait. Because the most powerful weapon in any war isn't the most advanced technology. It's the willingness to keep going when everything above ground has been taken away from you. The Cu Chi tunnels are still there. 250 kilometers of them, dug by hand, and they outlasted everything.
They're still there.
If you enjoyed this story,
yo, absolutely love that video. They're still there. I can't imagine. I know so many veterans that served in Vietnam, and they tell me horror stories all the time. you know? And I've never heard about this one in particular. And when I say horror stories, they told me things like they'll never forget the screams or the sounds that they would play during the Vietnam War. And you guys let me know if you've heard this as a vet yourself, or maybe as a family member to a vet that served in Vietnam. The sounds that they would play this thing to psychologically destroy you, where it would be like, they're fooling you, Americans. They're fooling you. And it would be like weird, like crying noises or like screams and like creepy, horrible things. And I would have vets tell me about that, where they would hear that and it just tormented them. But they said they were lucky that they didn't do much else, because a lot of the time they were at a base or doing certain things like that. But I can't imagine the people who were tunnel rats, or the people who had to deal with the Vietnamese coming from nowhere and you just getting shot by that, or getting completely spooked that your friend just passed away next to you. How? Where did they go? You can't even imagine like the concept of dealing with something like that and having to go home with that in your head. I can't, bro. Rest in peace. Man, what an amazing video, bro. What an amazing video. Loved it. Thank you guys for linking it over. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Till next time. Peace. How good you been living? Wait, how good you been living? I've been living too good for you. I've been living too. Did what I did and I do it again. Every move that I make, I ain't feeling repent. Nobody believes to believe it's a friend, and you question your moves like you really won't end. Really?